I posted up a little while ago to my channel. We were talking about solo wargaming. And that led into the question, of course, to AI at some point. Or what about an app-based game? This idea where the app can take control or make decisions of your units. And I thought to myself what was really interesting. So I wanted to kind of sidebar into this vlog. I'm also a board gaming enthusiast. I love board games for the narrative, the social aspects, the tactica, the game theory. And it's been an interesting trend where we have hybrid board games or app-driven board games where you have the game, you have the rules, you have the pieces, you have the tiles and the dice and the tokens and all that stuff and the miniatures. But the mission or the opposing side is controlled by an app. I'm not a big fan of that. I mean, part of it is maybe I'm a little bit old school. Part of it is because in my boring day-to-day life, I'm digital all the time, so I want to unplug and do some analog. Part of it is being a completionist and someone that is a long-term collector. I don't want to be tied to some sort of app that's going to be lack of support, and then the game is going to be dead at some point. But I do acknowledge that there are some interesting opportunities for that. And there are some games where it's a new way to play it. Hero Quest is a perfect example. The reincarnation of Hero Quest, one versus many, plays the same as you remember, or if not, as you think it does, as you imagine it does. But there's an app to control all of the monsters. There's an app to play that aspect of the game where it plugs into the mission. Well, that does open up a whole new possibility. I am for games that are hybrid if it supports both modes, meaning offline and I can play, or I can jump and play online. But that brought up the question, okay, hybrid games, digital games, interfacing with traditional board games, it's here, and there are a number of excellent titles. And I played a few with some friends, and I have to say, yes, they're actually really good and take advantage of the tech. And that's what we want to do. We want to push that tech. But what about AI for a war game? What if someone was designing a wargaming system that could be played one-on-one or part of that setting, but also played through an app? Now, I think that's something you'd have to develop from the ground up, or if you were implementing such a thing, have a really amazing system. I'm going to say God Tier is a great example. It is it's a miniature-based skirmish game. And I've pushed up some God Tier stuff to the channel here. Fantastic rule set, fantastic narrative, no flaws in the rules whatsoever with how it works. I mean, it's amazing. If you could port that to AI and have AI control some other war bands, that would be really, really interesting. But if you were going to say take AI or an app-based, not AI, but app-based game and try to have it play like Warhammer 40,000, it's just such a hot mess, it's impossible. I think if you put some sort of AI against it, the AI would be like, would you rather play a different game? So I know some systems, just with the mess of the rules and how they interact and so many inconsistencies, it won't work. But what if you could have an app for some of the tighter wargaming systems out there, some of the more focused ones? Is there a market for it? Is it worth the time and resources to development? Would it bring in more players? That I don't know. But then that brings up the question, we're not there yet, but you remember back in the day, 3D printers. Oh, don't worry about it. People will always pay for miniatures, and 3D printers will be a rare thing because it's like the size of your basement and fills everything up and takes a week to print one miniature. Well, now it's like what, 5, 8, X number of years later, and people are printing out their own miniatures from well-known wargaming systems. And I've seen a few of the armies painted up. You cannot tell the difference at all. And I've seen some miniatures painted up of a very famous wargaming system where I'm like, that's a limited release miniature. You paid $85 for that? They're like, no, I printed it. Or I see some miniatures. How did you get that new release? It's sold out. How did you get 10 of them? Printed it out. So from that perspective, I don't think anyone could have really foreseen the acceleration at that point. But as we get kind of more generic AI, or I think once AI can interact, And now whether you believe it's true AI or just a really, really complex brute force decision tree, like some sort of jacked up, juiced up chess engine, then that's a different story. But let's just say AI for the moment. I think once AI gets away from the keyboard communication and can interact and understand recognition of pieces and shapes, then I don't know, that's really interesting. I mean, at some point, 5 years from now, 5 years, if I can set up my wargaming system, point my iPhone at the table and turn on the camera, click the AI, and say, look, playing Warhammer 40,000. Here's the pieces. Here's what they look like. Point out all the units. Let's play a game. At that point, that gets things really, really interesting. Could AI play a war game?